Hey everyone, it's Michael Goosebumps fan. I hope you're doing well today. I hope you're having a good weekend so far as well. Yesterday I started a book that I finished a little bit ago. This is another GYG book. I figured I'd knock some of these out. I've been kind of in a mood for some give yourself goosebumps, choose your own adventure type of stuff. This is number 30, Your Plant Food. I actually talked about this in the comments of the previous review with somebody else just the other day. This cover is awful. Remember the one I talked about in the... What is the previous review? What is that book called? Into the Terror of the Twister? Something, whatever that book is called. The Wizard of Oz reminiscent book that had Yo-Yo the dog. Not Toto, but Yo-Yo on the cover. The really awful artwork. Now that was bad. That looked like Microsoft artwork, like I said. But then you look at this, and you got a kid that is supposed to look like he got turned into a plant, or like a tree. Probably supposed to be a tree, but it looks like broccoli. Yeah. It's like you should take Rocket Man and just make Broccoli Man. Anyway, Your Plant Food. I was really not looking forward to reading this. Let me be honest with you. This is one of those ones, and I talk about this all the time. There are books that I see the covers of, and I think, okay, well that cover might be bad, but what is the book title? What is the book possibly about? I'm very dry throat today. It's really cold outside. I think it affected my house quite a bit. Anyway, I said, you know what? I'm going to wait off on Your Plant Food. It kind of looks like trash. So I just kept waiting and waiting. I read into that Twister of Terror book, whatever, the other GYG book I just reviewed the day before yesterday. And that book itself was pretty solid, even though the cover's bad, the title was okay. This one's another great example of one that's actually kind of fun to read. It wasn't like an amazing book or anything, but I actually liked it more than that one, which was kind of surprising to me. Your Plant Food is very much about plants. Basically, you and your class are going on a field trip to this place called, I think it's the E, and when I say evil, I mean E.Ville. Eville, I think it was Creeper Botanical Gardens. If you don't know what that is, basically it's a big place that's like a massive garden, different areas in this place that raise up plants for studies, for science and whatnot. And you're going on a field trip there. And a lot of these books, typically as choose your own adventure books, kind of have like a pathway that divides off into two different areas. This one's a little bit different with that formula. It kind of starts that way, but kind of not. You can either take the front door to go into the place, or you can take the back door when you and your friends sneak in. And you and your best friend, who's kind of the brainiac girl, are sneaking into this place. And of course, a choose your own adventure book, the way this works, in case you don't know this, I like to recommend telling people this every single time I review one of these books, just in case it's the first time somebody's ever heard of this. I went my whole life never knowing Give Yourself Goosebumps existed, so just in case you don't know what a choose your own adventure book is, essentially you read a page, you go to the bottom of it, it gives you a choice to either go forward or backward in the book to make your decisions on where you want the story to go as a game, basically. And that's pretty cool. I like that. That's very well utilized here. Anyway, once you actually get inside of the botanical gardens, you meet a scientist guy who is the inheritor, essentially, of this botanical garden place that's not open to the public. His name is Max Creeper. Let me get this straight. Let me get this straight. Your school thought it was a good idea to take a group of children on a field trip to a place that's ran by a man named Max Creeper. What was his dad's name that he inherited the botanical gardens from? Super Creeper? Is that his name? Super Creeper? Anyway, you thought that was a good idea. That sounds about as much of a good idea, and this is a true story, by the way. That sounds about as much of a good idea as what happened at my high school. My high school had Jared Fogle, the subway man, come a month before he was basically revealed to be what he was, which I'm not going to go into that. But if you know about Jared Fogle, you know how bad that idea was. Not that the school could have known, but my school never made good choices. And that's a great example of one. That one has always cracked me up, as awful as it is. So this school here thought it was a good idea to take a group of kids to a guy's garden with many areas. They were going to have them free roam and whatever, and his name is Max Creeper. Jesus. Anyway, so you go from area to area inside of this place. You can go to like a desert-themed area, an Arctic-themed area that have these particular plants that are themed around that. Some of the atmospheres of these rooms are themed around that. If you go to like the desert one, there might be like a lot of sand and stuff. it's really fun, and you always go back to page, I think it's 100, where you kind of have to pick out the new area you're going to. The book itself has about 20 endings, as these books typically do. It feels like there's more to me, like 25, 30, somewhere in there, but I could be wrong. The only other real path that doesn't take you from room to room is one involving giant bugs, mainly a giant beetle-esque thing chasing you, and a couple of other creatures and creepy crawlers. I'm afraid of bugs. I just don't like bugs. They suck. I can deal with a fly. I can deal with a ladybug. Not a fan of anything else. So that got under my skin pretty well, especially one involving these worm-like things. That was very eerie, very gross, very creepy. And a lot of this book is like that. I'm not a big fan of things like Venus flytraps, which aren't mentioned in here at all, surprisingly. But there are things that are kind of like that, and some moments and endings that involve something sort of like that, and outcomes that have the kind of effect on a person that a Venus flytrap would have if it was a massive thing. That stuff affected me. I found that super engaging, but just in general, this one's not really a scary Goosebumps book, or a give yourself Goosebumps book for that matter. It has some fun moments that are kind of creepy, kind of gross for a kid's book in a gross-outy 90s way, if you like that kind of thing. But there was a lot of humor in here. The jokes, the kind of in-jokes, if you're a Goosebumps fan, and for I think it was this one that mentioned things like, I think it was Secret Agent Grandma that they mentioned here with some roses in the book. There's a lot of cool callbacks to stuff like that. There's some really good stuff in here. I had a good time for kind of a contained adventure inside of a botanical garden building. That was really fun. I had a really good time with it. There's not really much more to be said about it. It was just kind of fun. I like this more than the previous couple of books for sure, like I said, including that Twister of Terror book I just reviewed. This is a lot better. I think I had a lot more fun with this. I think this is really... It understands what it is, and it actually pulled it off fairly well. If I had to bet, I'd be willing to bet that Stein actually wrote this one. A lot of people debate on what he wrote and what he didn't write in the GYG series, even though his name is on every single one of them. But if I had to bet, I would say R.L. Stein probably actually wrote this one, because it feels like one of his types of books. A little off here and there, but most of the time it feels like his kind of cleverness, you know? I had a blast. I had a really good time with it, and I recommend it if you haven't read Your Plant Food, GYG number 30. Again, the cover's bad. Do not judge this book by a cover. It does not deserve that, as bad as the plot idea is. But being in the botanical gardens thing, that was actually way more fun than I thought it would be. I didn't know we were going to have that going into this. And this whole storyline, too, about being turned into a plant, that's literally like one very small subplot you could possibly have. It's not focused around that, thank God, which I was worried about. When I went into this, when I picked this up off the shelf and decided it was time to get through this, I was so worried about that. And this actually became a massive surprise to me. So, I do recommend it quite a bit, especially if you like GYG books, if you like things like Stay Out of the Basement, that plant-themed book from back in the old classic days of Goosebumps, you might really like this. If you like plants, if you like bug stories, anything like that. And even a bug story that doesn't involve you getting shrunk, which was surprising to me. Usually that's the case in a GYG book that involves a bug of any sort at all. Anyway, if I had to rate this book on a 5-star basis, I would give Your Plant Food a 4 out of 5 stars. I had a really good time with it. I'm glad I read it. I was kind of surprised by how much fun I had reading this one, how much I look forward all the time to jumping back in when I had the chance over the last couple of days to read this thing, as bad as yesterday was. Anyway, Your Plant Food, what did you guys think about it? Put your thoughts and comments down below. I would love to hear what you all have to say about this awesome little read. Again, I'm kind of surprised with how much fun I had with it. Kind of a side note here, this kind of sucks. This is kind of a downer ending, so if you're not really, if you don't want some sad news for the weekend, that's kind of something sad. I just wanted to ask for some prayers for my family, my wife's family mainly. My wife's grandmother passed away last night, and it was kind of a tragic thing. That's always tragic in general, but the situation that happened with her was really sad. Kind of a heart attack situation. That was really awful. Came home to my wife crying. She hadn't told me when I was at work, and I would ask that you guys would keep her in your prayers. It would mean a lot to me. It would mean a lot to my wife, and show her some love in the comments if you don't mind. If you guys have the time for it, if you don't mind, that's fine if you can't. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for watching once again. God bless you all, and goodbye.